Good morning, Facebook. We are about to record this next week's show. It's going to be called Retirement 101, Back to the Basics. Thanks for joining us live, and we'll be ready to roll here in just a second.
I'm recording when you're ready.
Good morning, and welcome to the Stress-Free Retirement Hour. I'm Steve Lewis. I'm going to be your host today. Greg is actually out of town, and so I'm covering for him. If you need to reach us, this show is recorded, but you're able to reach us. We do have live operators standing by as this show is airing. You can reach us at 864-989-0176. You can email me at steve@mymoneyissafe.com, or you can email Greg at mymoneyissafe.com, and he'll be able to reach out to you, obviously, when he is back in town. The title of today's show is actually Retirement 101, Back to the Basics. So here's the thing. I'm going to request today that when you tune in, that you tune in for the whole hour, because I'm going to cover a lot of material. I'm going to cover a lot of things. I would encourage you to take notes unless you're driving. Obviously, don't do that. But take notes if you can. I'm going to talk today about topics that you don't hear on any other show, especially as it pertains to retirement. I'm going to probably talk a little fast. I get yelled at a lot because I have a tendency to do that, but there really is a lot of material, and I want to make sure that in this short time frame that we're able to cover that. So again, if you don't get it all, go to our Facebook page. That's the Prosperity Group. You can rewatch the show as many times. We do stream it live on Facebook. We record this on Wednesdays, and so we're streaming live on Facebook. So you can go back and, like I said, listen to it as many times as you like. So today I'm going to kind of talk about retirement planning in the form of building a house. So that's kind of if you just envision as you're heading towards retirement, building a house, that's sort of the concept of what I'm going to try to paint today. And when you build a house, the first thing you do is the foundation. Well, it's interesting because most people that talk about retirement planning, they think they begin on the foundation, but they really don't. And I want you to think about something for just a second. If I were to talk to you right now and I were to say, what is the number one thing that could destroy your retirement quicker than anything else? Think about that for a second. What would that be? The number one thing that could wipe out your retirement, could wipe you out really almost instantly. And you probably would guess, because we talk a lot about the stock market, we talk a lot about the the financials and everything else going on in the industry, and that's true. That 40-50% of your income could be gone right away, or 40 or 50% of your portfolio could be gone right away. But I'm not even talking about that. I'm talking about drilling down even a little bit more. Well, what I'm talking about is your personal insurance, and I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this, but this is really, really important. So I hope you listen to this. So building block number one, and the foundational aspect of things, is your personal insurance. I want to quote just real quick a couple of articles. That this one was in the LA Times. The writer is Liz Pullman Weston. The title of the article is Low Liability Auto Coverage is a Good Deal If You Don't Have Much to Lose. And so the whole article goes on, and she talks about how in California they're doing a bunch of different things. I'm not going to read all of that, but one quote she says is, "One bad accident could rob these drivers of everything they own if the victims or the insurance company decide to sue for more than the policy limits. Those who don't have home equity or savings to lose could find their paychecks garnished to pay the cost of a lawsuit judgment." So think about that. You're driving down the road one day, you have just a quick mental lapse or something, and the next thing you know, you've caused an accident, and now you're looking at the possibility of losing really literally everything you have. One of the last quotes that she says, or a couple other quotes, she says, "Most drivers have enough to lose, but higher liability limits are advisable." So, she's saying definitely that you need to have more liability probably than what you have. There's another article, real quick, I want to quote a couple of quick things out of. This is Protect Your Family from Lawsuits Even If You Aren't Rich by Eric Cutts from the USA Today. This is a few years ago. But he starts off the article and says, "Those with seven-figure incomes aren't the only targets of lawsuits, and the average home and auto insurance may quickly run short in case of a simple accident and the litigation that can follow." And he goes on to talk about, I don't have time today to talk about the different types of coverages and all that kind of stuff. That's not really the purpose of this show. If you want to meet with me, I'm happy to talk to you about that. But basically what he's saying is that even on the higher end of limits in an auto policy, those allowances may not be enough for the average consumer. And he says people today have become so litigious, they're suing for everything. You're going to need to look at an umbrella policy that covers homeowners, your homeowners and your auto. Damages can quickly add up if a person's trying to sue you for hospital bills, lost wages. It's an astronomical amount. That's a great place where umbrella coverage comes in for liability not covered, and not at much cost. And basically, he's quoting this other person in the article, and he says, it's better to have it and not need it than to need it and not have it. I can't afford to be sued and wiped out. And then the final thing, and I'm sorry to read all of this, but I just wanted to kind of give you a third-person opinion. If you're sued for an accident in your home, and you don't have the assets to pay the damages, plaintiffs can go after your income as it rolls in, which I said from the other article. And even in some states, some types of retirement plans are also vulnerable. So, again, think about it. You're driving down the road and you have a mental lapse real quick, and then all of a sudden, next thing you know, you cause an accident, and they come after you and they sue you, and you could literally be wiped out instantaneously. So all the planning you've done, you could have the best plan in the world, but there's no foundation there to set you up. My son, actually a couple of years ago, was in a really bad dirt bike accident, and there was no liability there, but the reason I'm bringing that up is he was in intensive care for, he's fine now by the way, but he was in intensive care for about 11 days. And the total bill on that hospital stay was almost $300,000. And it was, the average in the country is about $10,000 a day just for the hospital. So just for a bed and a room, it's about $10,000 a day. And then anything else, drugs and surgeries and surgeons and nurses and everything else, that's all on top of it. So my point in telling you that is a liability can add up very, very quickly, especially if there's, an accident or where there's pain and suffering. I mean, there's all kinds of different reasons why people would get sued. So, having said that, it is critical and important for you to make sure that you are adequately covered. So, what does that even mean? I mean, what is the coverage? What is it that you need to make sure that you're covered? So what is it that how much coverage do you need? And I teach a class on this actually, so I could talk for hours on this, and I've got 2 minutes left in this segment, but I want you to write this down if you are writing. The equity in your home, so what's the sales, take the sales price of your home versus what you owe, so that's obviously the equity in your home. Your total personal property, so everything you own, whether it's clothes or shoes or couches, TVs, everything, your investments, the total of your investments, the total of your savings, and then your future income. So you take your salary, multiply that, let's say you're going to retire at 70, so 70 minus your current age times about 40%. They can take about 40% of your income. So take all of that and add it together. Now that's how much you're exposed. That's what the potential loss is that you have. And then take your current liability amount and subtract it. Now look at your deficit. Every time I do this exercise, people are amazed at how much exposure they actually have. So if you take a minute to do that, go through that exercise, I think you'll be astonished at how much like I said, you're just totally exposed. By the way, the programs that we offer here, the ones that we talk about all the time on the show, they are totally protected from lawsuits. They can't be attached. And so that's another beautiful thing about what we talk about here. So if you are looking to, you want to know more about what your exposure is or how to protect that, we certainly can help you with that. We can sit down and go through this exercise with you. We can show you where your concerns are, and I have a quick story to tell you on the other side of this break. But give us a call, and we will be happy to sit down with you and start laying the foundation for your retirement plan. So again, give us a call, 864-989-0176. It's 864-989-0176, or you can email me at steve@mymoneyissafe.com or greg@mymoneyissafe.com, and we will be happy to get back in touch with you. So stay tuned, keep your pencils sharpened, and we will be back and talk to you here in just a second after the break.
Okay, I'm recording when you're ready.
Welcome back to the Stress-Free Retirement Hour. I'm Steve Lewis, your host today. I'm covering for Greg, whose voice you normally hear. I do co-host with him, but he's usually sort of the captain of the ship, so to speak. He's out of town. Just to remind you, this show is recorded, but we do have operators standing by, so if there's anything that intrigues you or questions you have, please feel free to reach out to us and give us a call. You can reach us at 989-0176. You can email me at steve@mymoneyissafe.com or greg@mymoneyissafe.com, obviously for Greg, and we'll be happy to reach out to you and answer any questions or help you out any way we can. Today's show is Retirement 101, Back to the Basics. So I began in the first segment, and if you didn't hear the first segment, you need to go back to Facebook or go on our archives and listen to it, because this is really a building process. I'm going to move away from the foundation here in just a second, but the foundation is super, super critical for anybody that's looking into planning their retirement. So it's like building a house. We talked about the foundation. We talked about your personal insurance and sort of the exposure there and why you need to cover it. I wanted to kind of share a story with you. So I was actually sitting with a client the other day, and I was telling him that there's one particular company, and I'm not going to name them, but it seems that their agents are just, I don't know, I'm not sure they think very clearly on, it's just sort of whatever they feel good or whatever the flavor of the day is as far as what your coverages are on your policy. I had a client who his home was insured for about $60 a square foot, so if his house burned down, he was on the hook for about half of it. And his cars, he had 5, and 2 of them he was reasonably covered, and then the other 3 he had state minimum limits. And what that meant is, and I told him, I said, well, if you have a lucky day and you're in the right car and you have an accident, you're okay. But if you're in the other car and you don't, you have an accident, then you've got state minimum coverage, and then you could be wiped out. Well, it was funny because I was telling this gentleman this story, and I said, we need to look at your stuff, because we were working with him on some other things, and we need to look at your stuff. So he brought in his documents, and the first thing I said to him, I said, well, you realize that you're that guy? I said, and he goes, yeah, I know. Don't even, he goes, I need to change this. He was exactly in the same situation. He had 2 cars. One car was adequately covered, and the other was totally state minimum limits, and it just didn't make any sense. So it's really worth it. My point in telling you that, it's really worth it for you to sit down with us, bring your insurance documents in, let us sit down and talk to you, and take a look at what you have, and fix the things that need to be fixing on your personal insurance, but also there are other policies that you can put on that for very inexpensive cost. The main one is called an umbrella, and I'm not going to spend time talking about it today, but for very cost effective to be able to up your insurance coverage to well over $1 million and adequately protect you. So that was on the personal side. I want to talk about the foundation real quick on the business side, because it is very similar to the personal side. So many people, they're counting on their business, the business owners, they're counting on the business to, they're going to sell it at some point, or they're counting on it to continue to grow to fund their retirement, and that's all great. But I can't tell you how many people I've sat down with looking at their business liability insurance and telling them, you're one loss away from being out of business. Literally, if you don't have the right coverage or the right amount of coverage, one little thing could totally wipe out your business and put you in dire straits, just like what we talked about with the personal insurance. So again, going back to that, it's a foundational thing from a business and a personal. You need to take a look at that. By the way, just to answer the question, I talked about the umbrella very briefly. There is a commercial umbrella as well that's very cost effective that can cover your liability for your commercial autos and your commercial home to help you with that. So again, for us to review it, all you got to do is give us a call, bring in your documents, and we will be happy to sit down with you, schedule a time, sit down with you, and go over that. So you can reach us at 989-0176, 989-0176. You can email me at steve@mymoneyissafe.com or greg@mymoneyissafe.com. I'm sure I've presented to you a lot of things that are going to give you a lot of questions. So again, feel free to send those to us in an email or give us a call. So we've established now in building our house, building our retirement house, we've established the foundation. Now let's go to the number 1 building block. The number 1 building block is Social Security planning. Social Security, it actually composes about 65% of most retirees' income. That is significant. 65% of their income, so a majority of retirees' income they are relying on Social Security to pay them. So there are a lot of questions that need to be answered when it comes to Social Security. The first is in relation to that. So if 65% of it is going to be your income, if you're average, and that's going to be your income, well, where's the other 35% going to come from? And how much of that do I need? How much money do I need to survive? And how much money am I going to need to, grow to be able to make that happen? There's a lot of questions that sort of all interact with Social Security. So how do you accomplish those goals? What's the best way to make sure that when you retire that you've got the amount of income that you need? Another question is, how much is your benefit going to be? I mean, to me, that's sort of, really foundational as it pertains to Social Security. What is my benefit? When is the absolute best time to file, and under what strategy? There are still several strategies. Some went away last year, but there are still strategies. There's still several different opportunities for you to file at different times to make sure that you take advantage of everything. So how do you know? I mean, how do you know when is the best time and what strategy to file? And if you go to Social Security and you ask them, we've talked about this on the show before, but if you go to them and ask them, they can't advise you. So how do you know? I mean, most people just assume that when you turn 65, you're going to file and you're done. Well, I think there's 20-something thousand different ways that you can file, and different formulas and different ways to look at things. So one of the things that we offer in sort of one of the building blocks to retirement is a Social Security maximization report. You've heard Greg and I mention it many, many times on the show. We use it for all the time for our clients. Basically, we sit down with you, we get your Social Security information, we calculate what is, based on your situation, what is the best way for you to kind of maximize your opportunity to make sure, based on the savings that you have, your retirement goals, we take all of that into consideration and look at it and make sure that you have the best opportunity based on your situation and your goals to meet those goals. So that's called a Social Security maximization report. We offer that for free. You just need to call us and set up a time for us to get together. So again, give us a call. You can reach us at 989-0176. We have operators standing by now, so 989-0176. Steve at mymoneyissafe.com for me. And if you're trying to reach Greg, Greg at mymoneyissafe.com. And we can schedule a time. It doesn't take a lot of time for us to sit down and sort of go over your goals and put together a plan. But if you don't, if you fail to plan, then you plan to fail. And so you need to have some kind of a goal and objective and plan to meet that goal and objective. And we can definitely help you do that. There's no cost or fee to do that. So again, give us a call, 989-0176. We've now talked about the foundation, and we've talked about building block number one. We are going to, on the next break, we're going to move into sort of the fundamental, the real core of everything. So stay tuned, keep your pen hot, and we'll talk to you on the other side of the break. What was that?
Oh, I had the thing up.
What in the world?
All right, I'm recording.
Welcome back to the Stress-Free Retirement Hour. I am Steve Lewis, your host for today only. Normally you're used to hearing Greg Ellie, his charming voice on the radio. He's actually out of town today. I usually do co-host, so you're probably used to hearing me a little bit here and there, but he is the captain and he is out for today, so I'm holding down the fort, so to speak. We have operators standing by, so if you have questions and you have a pen or pencil available, write this down. Give us a call at 989-0176, 989-0176. Email me at steve@mymoneyissafe.com, or Greg, if you want to talk to Greg, greg@mymoneyissafe.com. Today, we're talking about Retirement 101, back to the basics. So just to recap, in case you've missed the first two segments, I want to make sure that you're up to speed. You really do need to go back into the archives if you've missed this. Go on our Facebook page, like the Prosperity Group's Facebook page, and then listen or watch the video. You'll actually, we do record this live. We stream it live on Wednesday mornings because that's when we record. But listen to the whole show and take notes, because to me, this is something that most people when they talk about retirement, they don't cover. I just spent the first 2 segments really talking about a topic that most people don't even discuss when it comes to retirement planning, and to me is absolutely foundational. As I said, it's so important to make sure when you're building a house, you don't build it on sand, right? You build it on a solid foundation, and the solid foundation is protection. So you want to make sure that you protect yourself. And I talked about personal insurance, making sure that you have the right liability limits, and commercial insurance as well, making sure that if you own a business, you have the right liability limits, and if you, obviously you drive a car and own a home, you need to have the right liability limits for those as well, because that is the number one thing that could instantly destroy your retirement. Now, we talk about how you're vulnerable to the market, and if the market collapses, which we do believe that's going to happen, there's a reset coming. I didn't have time today to really cover that in this show, but I ran across probably 6 or 8 articles this week that just talk about how the fundamentals they're very, very scary. But at a worst, what most people seem to think is that the market's going to reset 40, 50, 60%. Of course, it's unknown. We don't know that, and we don't know when, and we don't know how much, but historically it's been 40 or 50%. So your retirement savings could be wiped out 40 or 50% if you're in the market. But what about just your normal stuff? As I talked about, the equity in your home. What about the, just your savings account and, your personal property and those kinds of things? Those could be, and your future income. Those could all be wiped away by you not having the right amount of insurance. So make sure that you do that you sit down with us for a review, make sure that you have adequate coverage. I run into it almost literally every day as I'm talking to people. It's amazing how just for $20 more a month they could cover themselves and make sure that they're adequately protected. It's really stunning, the deficits that I see. So make sure that you make that a priority. Give me a call or shoot me an email, and we'll be happy to sit down with you and talk to you about that. And then we talked about the building block of Social Security, so making sure that you put together a Social Security maximization report, and really what that's about is making sure that you know what your benefit is and what your opportunities are, because there are strategies and different times that you could file for Social Security. So making sure that you take advantage of the best opportunity for your situation. Well, when there's 20,000 calculations, how in the world do you know which one is absolutely best for you? Well, the only way to do that is to use our algorithm, and we go through this process of doing this, and we come up with a report that's actually really nice, easy, and clean to read. So, having said that, if you are interested in knowing what your best opportunity is, then give us a call or shoot us an email, and we will be happy to put that report together for you. There's no cost or obligation or anything like that to do it. It's just one of those things that we offer as a service, because we truly want you to have a stress-free retirement. We truly want to help people in their retirement situation. So give us a call, 989-0176, or email us at Steve or Greg, depending on which one you want to reach, at mymoneyissafe.com. So let's talk about sort of some of the common concerns of retirees. This is sort of moving into the next building block. This isn't a building block yet, but it will be in a second or in a few minutes. But the biggest fear for retirees as they're moving into retirement and as they start their retirement is actually outliving their money. Most people don't think about the fact that you're going to be unemployed for 25 to 30 years. Or I guess if you don't plan properly, you'll be employed again for 25 or 30 years. But if you've planned properly, or at least the goal is to make sure that you're unemployed for the next 25 or 30 years, that's a long time. And a lot of money can go very quickly, certainly a whole lot quicker than 25 or 30 years if you don't plan properly. So that is the number one biggest fear. So just when you take a lump sum of money, whatever that number is, and you say, okay, well, I need to make sure that this lasts 25 or 30 years, how do you know how much you can take off of it every year? Well, in 1994, there was a gentleman named William Bingen. He actually co-authored a study with Morningstar. Morningstar is a company that, it's kind of hard to describe, but they basically do a lot of things as it relates to investments in mutual funds and that kind of thing. So he co-authored this study. And at the time, he said that if you withdraw, if you have an amount of money and you withdraw 4%, that's sort of the optimal number, so 4%, then that money should last you through 30 years. So if, that's assuming that, the account moves up and down and all that kind of stuff. So 4% is your number. So what I want you to do, we talked about your, sort of some of your goals and your Social Security and all that kind of thing. Now let's talk about what your goal is. So if your goal is X, then you need to take the amount of money that you have or the goal that you have at retirement and then work backwards and say, well, okay, if I'm going to have $1 million and I can take 4% of that, then $40,000 a year I can take out of that $1 million and be safe, and make sure that the principal stays there and it will continue to go on. Well, that's okay if 40,000 is your number and you're comfortable with that, but what if you need more than that? Well, here's the other thing. So I didn't tell you the whole rest of the story. So the 4% has been the standard number for a long time. Well, in 2013, Morningstar went back and they sort of redid their numbers and they revised it. And they said, you know what, we actually have to move this number down. So it's not 4% anymore. So anybody that tells you the 4% rule, they're actually mistaken. The rule according to Morningstar, and that's sort of been the standard, the high water mark, is now down to 2.8%. So now that $1 million gets you 28,000 instead of 40,000. That's a huge hit. Well, the reason they moved it down, they said it was because of the volatile markets, the low interest rates, advisory fees, and more conservative mix of stocks and bonds. So less return but more volatile market. That's basically why they're moving that number down. So 2.8% is a huge ratchet down. So write that number down and then write your goals down, and then you can begin to figure all this out. Now, I hope as you've been writing down, you're starting to get a little overwhelmed and say, my goodness, there's a lot to this, and I really don't have time or the knowledge, or I'm worried I'm going to make a mistake. Well, good. That's why you need to call us. So you need to contact us because we have all of this stuff in computer form, and I'm telling you, we sit down and we put together a comprehensive plan for you. We customize everything from your income goals to what does your portfolio need to be, what's the volatility of that portfolio, what are your goals and objectives, where are you, where do you need to be, how are you going to get there. Basically, that's what we do. When we talk about the prosperity plan, we try to find holes in your program, we look at your goals, we look at your objectives, and we map it out. Here's how you get there. So again, you're welcome to try to put together the plan yourself. We put together a really nice presentation for you, and it's very easy to follow, and I would highly recommend that you give us a call so that we can sit down and talk about that. Again, there's no cost to that. We don't charge money for that. There's a lot of firms around that charge a lot of money to do that. We don't. We figure that's a service that we like to provide to our clients and even to prospects, just people that are interested in knowing more about it. We do that for free. So there's some other fears and concerns. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on inflation at this point because that is a fear. I mean, you can imagine over 25 to 30 years, inflation is going to make a big difference. If you look at, what's a house cost today versus what it cost 30 years ago, huge difference. And so you can imagine that, we've talked about the 4% rule, which is now the 2.8% rule, how that affects the money that you take out. Well, now you've got this amount of money, this set amount of money that you're looking to spend every month, that's your expenses, and now the value of that is worth less. And so how do you compensate for that? That's a huge fear as people move into retirement. And part of that, I also want to address as we're wrapping up this segment, think about this real quick. So as you're in that kind of accumulation stage, there's sort of two phases. There's the accumulation phase, and then there's the income phase. So accumulation phase is when you're working, you're generating income, and you've got some living expenses and that kind of thing, and then anything left over goes into savings. Well, when you retire, you're now in that income phase where your savings is working for you, and now all your expenses come out of that, and you're left with with your income. So everything kind of flip-flops, right? Your income, it goes into what's left over is in your savings, and then when you retire, your savings is actually your income. And so your savings has to be big enough that your income is taken care of. And again, that's what we do when we put together the prosperity plan, is to make sure that all of that works for you. So as we're wrapping up this segment, we talked about the foundation, we talked about the building blocks. On the other side, I have a couple of more fears to address real quick, and then I'm going to give you the great news. So I want you to hang tough. Come back with me on this last segment. I'm going to go through the real positive news. I've created some scare, but there's a real positive news on the other side of it. So give us a call, 9890176, or email me at steve@mymoneyissafe.com or greg@mymoneyissafe.com. Tune in for the next segment.
Okay, I'm recording when you're ready.
Welcome back to the Stress-Free Retirement Hour. I'm Steve Lewis, your host today. As I've told you before, Greg is normally the captain. He's out today. He's out of town, and so I'm covering for him. So you are with me for one more segment today, and then next week we'll be back together. So give us a call at 9890176. You can email me at steve@mymoneyissafe.com or greg@mymoneyissafe.com if you want to reach out to Greg. We are recorded. This show is recorded, but we do have live operators standing by, and obviously you can reach us at email anytime. The show today is Retirement 101, Back to the Basics. So I'm going to do a much quicker recap because I'm up against the clock, and I really want to make sure I get to the great news. I teased you in the last segment saying we have some great news, so I want to get to that in this segment, but I have a couple of other fears that I want to address because they're really important. So we talked about building this retirement house. We talked about the foundation and how it's important to make sure you've got the right amount of insurance, personal insurance or commercial insurance, so that if there's some unforeseen instance that happens, your business or your personal assets are not wiped out. We talked about Social Security planning to make sure that you have an adequate strategy to make sure that you're maximizing your opportunity with Social Security. We can put together a report for that. By the way, regarding your personal insurance and your business insurance, we can sit down. We're happy to sit down with you and go through that and really poke holes in your current program to make sure that you've got what you need there. And Social Security planning, we do a Social Security maximization report. We can help you with that. So we talked about in the last segment, the biggest fear of retirees is outliving their money and what that means and why you need to know, what your numbers are. We talked about inflation a little bit. We also, another fear that comes into play is the return on your money. So it's interesting that as people move into retirement, there's this sort of greed factor, especially right now where the market's just blowing and going, and every day it seems like it's setting a new record. There's things, constantly going on, but if you look at the fundamentals, they're still scary. And my point isn't today to talk about the financial structure of everything. I really want to make sure that you understand that as you move into retirement, it's time to take chips off the table. We talk about that all the time. The Wall Street casino, if you keep playing, you're going to get burned. That's why there's big casinos with lots of beautiful lights and shiny things, because the house wins most of the time. So, when you get into retirement, you don't have the opportunity to lose 40% anymore. So it's time to worry about the return of your money, not the return on your money. So one of the things that we talk about is the rule of 100. I don't want to spend a lot of time on that because I'm running a little long here. But red money and green money we talk about. So let me kind of go into that really, really quickly. We do a color of money report for you, which really says where is your risk? How much risk do you have in the market? How much risk should you have in the market based on your age and your strategies? And how do we look at making that safer? So green money really is the safe things like checking and savings and CDs and treasuries and those kinds of things, money markets. And then the red money is going to be more your more volatile stuff: stocks, bonds, variable annuities, mutual funds, REITs, all those kind of things. So it's really important that for your age and your income and your objectives, that has the right balance. We can do a color of money report for you. It is free, and so if you're interested in that, give us a call. We'll be happy to perform that for you as well. It's a great report that you can take with you and use as kind of a map and a guide stone for you to know where to invest. The other fear is really having to do with long-term care, chronic care, nursing home care. I know that a lot of retirees are concerned about, well, what happens if I become disabled, or what happens if I need nursing care or I need chronic care. That's definitely a huge fear. And so with that, I'm going to transition now for the next couple of minutes into really the great news. This is the great news about what we have to offer at the Prosperity Group. So this is the final block. This is block number 5, I believe, or 4. This is a plan, having a solution to all of these issues. So, this is retirement plans. When we talk about it, we're talking about for business owners and individuals. I've addressed that several times today. So this is really for everybody, and it addresses all of the concerns that I've already listed. So, don't create a tax liability for yourself. That's, we talk about the seed and the harvest. Would you rather pay tax on the seed or the harvest? Well, we usually wind up paying tax on the harvest because we put it into a plan that's structured that way. Well, we can create plans where you're paying on the seed and not the harvest. What about a bank leverage growth? You've heard us, if you listened to the show over the last several weeks, we've talked about using a bank to actually help you meet your goals, much like having your house or that kind of thing, having a mortgage. You can actually use a financial institution to help you grow your retirement plan. It is an unbelievable opportunity, and we've actually had several people take advantage of this, and they're incredibly happy. So I would encourage you to give us a call. Let us talk more about that, or go back in the archives and listen to those shows. We have some experts that talk about it on our program a couple of weeks ago. What about tax advantage deposits? So for business owners, even though you've got a 401k, we have ways that you can structure something where you can actually have tax advantaged opportunity where you're being able to deduct some or most or all of those payments that are going into another program. What about tax-free withdrawals? What if we could offer you something where you don't have to pay any tax on whatever comes out of that program? That's powerful. Well, what about income you can't outlive? Remember, the number one fear for retirees has to do with their biggest fear is outliving their money. You can't outlive the retirement plans that we set up. The accounts continue to grow with the market. There's no market risk. I mean, all of these things, long-term chronic care and nursing care is all wrapped up in that. You just can't lose with these programs. They really are all-encompassing, and they take care of all of the fears that I've addressed through this whole show. So do you want a stress-free retirement? Today, I've kind of given you the beginning or the building blocks to help accomplish this. So, but truthfully, the rest is up to you. You've got to take action. So what I'm recommending is you call our office. Let's get started. Let's start working on making your retirement stress-free. Let's put together a plan. Let's take a look at your personal and your business insurance to make sure that you don't have any exposure there. Let's look at your Social Security plan. Let's make sure you maximize that opportunity. Let's put together a roadmap. Let's look at your where you're invested to make sure that you're adequately invested for your goals and your objectives. Let's make sure that all of the concerns that we've listed are taken care of. Let's put a plan together for you that helps you kind of coast into retirement. That's really the objective of a stress-free retirement, isn't it? Making sure that you don't have to worry about all these holes and things that are out there, these concerns. So give us a call today, 989-0176. That's 989-0176. You can reach me at steve@mymoneyissafe.com. You can reach Greg at greg@mymoneyissafe.com. Thank you for tuning in today. We wish you a great week. God bless, and we will talk to you next week. Boom, right on the second. And Facebook Live, that's Steve's second debut solo. So peace out. Thanks for watching.